What's your best "it's not what it looks like" story? I was walking along one night with my wife and we bumped hips accidentally. I bumped her again, she bumped me back harder and it escalated from there. For my final victory, I timed it just right to knock her into a lamppost so she fell over, laughing. Whoop whoop, a police car had come up behind us and only seen the killing blow. She instantly started laughing so hard at the absurdity of it that tears were streaming down her face and they grabbed me to stop me attacking her anymore. I had been going over to help her up. Honest officer. It took quite a while for her to stop laughing enough to explain, longer still for them to believe us. Senior year of high school, end of the year, and it's been balls hot for days and for some reason the AC isn't working. I have this pain in my taint and scrotum area and I'm complaining about it to my friend next to me in biology class. I really don't want to go tell the nurse or have a parent look at it. So I asked my friend if he'll take a peek. This was before everyone had a cell phone with a camera to do this sort of thing. He says, "Sure bro, I got you." The teacher tells us to split into pairs to quiz each other with flashcards for the final and then excuses himself to the bathroom. My friend and I pair up and head to the back of the lab where there's a walk-through office to the next lab and close the door behind us and move out of sight of the windowed doors, and I drop my shorts and undies and he squats down to take a look as I move my junk up and out of the way for a clear view. In walks the teacher because he wanted to grab his water bottle out of the office on his way back from the bathroom. I'm standing facing him and my friend is squatting in front of me, definitely looking like he's blowing me from the teacher's perspective. Teacher freezes and can't find words as I rush to cover myself and my friend turns around and blurts out, "I'm not sucking it." "I'm just looking." Teacher backs out of the office and won't look either of us in the eye for the last week of school. Edited to add for everyone asking. It just turned out to be a boil. I managed to drain it later in the shower and it healed up fine. When I was 16, my boyfriend's, now husband's, parents took me on a beach vacation with them. His dad was kind enough to carry my luggage to my room and his face was bright red. I just thought he was hot. But my boyfriend came in and goes, "Sue. My dad says your luggage is vibrating." I had one of those handheld face washing devices that you put a little makeup remover pad on in my bag and it had turned on. His poor dad thought I had brought a vibrator, so I actually had my BF take it down and show them what it was so they wouldn't think poorly of me, lol. We all had a great laugh. Invited my friend on a hike, needed to get my bottle from the trunk. Forgot that I had to move some painting supplies earlier. The face when your tracksuit wearing Eastern European friend opened a trunk lined with garbage bags and rolls plastic wrap and a hatchet in the middle of woods was priceless but do not recommend. Hard to argue is no problem, just had to move messy things, do not worry. In high school, borrowed my parents' van to take my GF on a date. We went out for dinner and then to a friend's for a bonfire. She changed in the van from a skirt tights to sweatpants in between. Next day my dad pulls me aside and he's holding her tights. I start saying, "It's not what it looks like," but he cuts me off and just goes on about, "I want to make sure you guys are being safe, don't worry, I won't tell your mother, etc. I won't tell your mother that you wear tights." When I submitted an expense claim for an inflatable doll. Not a blow-up doll, an inflatable person. It was many years ago in the NHS and we were using it in meetings to demonstrate convoluted patient journeys so we could eliminate waste and simplify things. My boss had a sense of humor. My time to shine. Okay, so I convinced my dad to do the polar plunge at this super awesome festival called Frozen Dead Guy Days, right? Well, it was so windy that year that the warming tent wouldn't stay up, so their solution was to have an old ambulance be our place to get changed out of our frozen clothes. My dad got in there and decided he didn't want to be packed in butt naked like a can of sardines with a bunch of strangers, so his solution was to walk 1 mile UO the road to a cafe to change in that bathroom. Well, I'm pretty sure a mild case of hypothermia set in cause he was fricked up once he got to the cafe and was in the bathroom for ages. Eventually, I went in there and he was still in his wet clothes. I ended up helping him get dressed, but I was struggling hard with buttoning his pants cause jeans are hard for girls. It was even more awkward cause he was freeballing it. Well, sure as shit, right as I was on my knees face level at my dad's chunk, some Karen barged into the bathroom, pissed cause someone was in there forever. Only to see what was, in her mind, going down. Of course, I'm freaking stupid and my only logical explanation was to blurt out, "It's okay. He's my dad." She bolted so fast out of there. ETA, I called my dad and he gave me permission to share the pic of our costumes. Here you go. I was helping out a female co-worker by giving her a ride home from work every day. She was going through a divorce and was having car issues with her ex. We both worked the same hours and it was a short distance, so I was happy to help. Anyway, one day she told me that a mouse had gotten into her bedroom, which was over a garage. I told her it's probably a simple fix, like maybe the mouse came up through a heat vent or small hole somewhere near the floor. I go up to her bedroom and get down on all fours looking for somewhere that the mouse was getting in. I took off my glasses and set them on her nightstand next to her bed. I found a small opening by a plumbing pipe and jammed some paper in it to block it off. I got up and told her that was the only place I could see and that I thought it might be fixed. I then walked out to my truck and drove home. 2 hours later, I get a call from my friend who says that her soon-to-be ex had come over and found my glasses on the nightstand. She tried to explain to him that it was completely innocent and I was just looking for a hole where the mouse may have gotten in. He just looked at her and said, "Yay, I am sure he was here looking for a hole." Theater kid in high school, had a scene where I had to tie a girl to a chair with a specific knot so it looked real but could be undone super quick by her just tugging something and it all coming undone. Anyway, I'm practicing the knot with her in the classroom during an off period so I could get it right. Cue gym teacher walking into the room to ask theater teacher something and seeing a girl gagged and getting tied to a chair while we were the only two in the theater classroom. Fun times. Edit. Few quick things I thought I'd add after replying to comments. Scene was after her character gets kidnapped, so that's why we went to all the lengths to make her look like a hostage. She agreed to everything we did, even suggested the gag herself to be authentic. Take that how you old teacher who found us was super chill and knew most of the theater kids anyway and supported the theater anyway, he told us through the visible concern. Please tell me this is for a scene cause I don't want to be there for this trip to the principal. I told him yeah, just practicing to get the knot right, and another scene is on stage. He just nodded and went to find theater teacher. Again, I never thought to take her gag off to let her help me explain cause I'm an idiot. Later our theater teacher decided we'd have certain places to practice sensitive scenes. A friend of ours won an award at university, so a bunch of us went to support him. Several bottles of wine later, we were hammered and our friend won. So after the ceremony, we decided to all jump on him in celebration. A great idea clearly. Being drunk, we weren't very subtle about it, so he saw it coming, so he sensibly ran off. We chased him. It's at this point I should mention he's a black guy and the rest of us were all white. What the security people at this event saw were around 10 white guys running after a black guy yelling, "Get him! Don't let him escape!" Security guards took us all down and didn't believe he was our mate. We still talk about the race hate run of 2008. Driving back to college from my grandma's house, holding my hand up to my ear to hear myself better as I practice for a choral performance a couple days from then. Cop pulls me over, is surprised to see that my phone is actually packed away in the backseat when he asks me to retrieve it. Asks me what the hell I was doing, and I get to awkwardly explain the thought process behind hearing yourself better when holding a hand to your ear. After a long stoic pause, I panicked and couldn't think of anything else to say, so I went, "Just try it," and started singing on the side of a 2-lane highway in the middle of bumfrick nowhere. He let me off with a warning. Edit. I don't know why I got a warning. I like to think the guy was just as embarrassed as me in the moment, and tried to make the traffic stop mean something more than I pulled over a choir kid because I thought I saw a phone and distracted driving is bad. So he let me off with a warning. He does however come across as some sort of Footloose-esque villain though, and I agree it was a super weird interaction. Getting off of work while I was in college. I worked at the student union. As I was walking, I get a campus alert on my phone about a sexual assault that happened. I was wearing the exact clothing description minus the shoes. Heading the same direction he was last spotted and got stopped by campus police. Never been happier that we call campus police dispatch after closing the building. Yes, they caught the guy later. I live in not the best neighborhood in Brooklyn, and a few weeks ago I was walking my girlfriend's small black 3-legged dog late one night. There's a lot of guys that hang out by a busy corner drinking, smoking on their stoops. One of them went to take a leak by a building's trash area. He was facing the building with his back to me. So, as he was peeing, Pepper, the dog, decided she was going to be stubborn and just sit down. I kept trying to get her to get up so we could go home. As I was calling her and telling her, "Come on, let's go," the guy peeing locked eyes with me through a mirror that was in the trash pile. Yo, what the frick? He couldn't see the dog I was talking to because she was 10 feet behind me in the shadows. He thought I was trying to fight him while I was watching him take a leak. Not at all the case. As he was zipping up and turned around, Pepper hopped up and trotted by and broke all the tension. He was like, "Oh shit, my bad. I didn't know you were talking to the dog." We laughed about it and carried on our separate ways. I was in a relationship with a girl who was paraplegic and needed a wheelchair. We made a cosplay of the Lamia from Monster Musume and we went into a part of the convention center that was empty to get a couple shots of the costume before going out into the crowd. At the time we didn't know it was technically off limits. So I help her out of the wheelchair and lay her down so she can get comfortable, and I was wheeling her chair off to the side to be out of sight for the photos. I always freak around too much and I was pretending to run away while taunting her. I did it all the time and it always made her laugh. I think I said something like, "Good luck trying to leave without your wheels," and before I could turn around to see where I was going, I was getting wrestled to the ground by the convention center security. We cleared it up and slap on the wrist for me cause we were somewhere we weren't supposed to be. Security guards got in more trouble cause they're not supposed to touch people, but their hearts were in the right place since they thought I was robbing a girl who couldn't walk. My manager was working in the office one weekend and had bad eczema. As no one was around, he dropped his jeans and started going to town on his thighs. A cleaning lady walked in, took one look at him, and walked out again. What makes it worse is on the Monday, his manager wanted to speak to him about a completely unrelated sensitive issue. He thought he was getting fired. Not me, but I heard a story from a health and safety trainer. He goes on the road a lot, up and down the country. One day he's at a petrol station, and goes to grab something out of his boot. As he does this, two old people walk past with worried faces. He thinks nothing of it and carries on his journey. As he's going down the motorway, he noticed a police car a few cars back, again thinking nothing of it. Then an unmarked police car swerved in front of him, and the police car speeds up to pull him over. He stops and is immediately pulled out of the car by armed police officers and held at gunpoint. The armed officers go straight to the boot of the car, open it, and start bursting out with laughter. Turns out when that old couple walked past earlier, they spotted the child training dummy and thought it was real, so they reported it. At a concert, and some dude flicks his roach into the air when he's done smoking it. The cherry lands right on top of this girl's head, just burning into her hair. I was standing right beside her, so I just immediately swatted the burning ember from her hair. She turns around, along with her boyfriend, and are like, "WTF was that?" I tried to explain that someone had thrown a roach into her hair, but they really didn't seem to believe me, just thought I was some weirdo who likes to whack women on the top of their heads, I guess. They just turned back around visibly annoyed and walked away. Then some guy behind me is like, "Nice job bro, I watched the whole thing. Why didn't you say something when they were questioning me?" Anyways, no harm done, but it was a funny story. Was playing Monopoly with my boyfriend and his friends. All of a sudden his friend yells, "No. No, 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 no," while looking at me in horror. I then respond, "What's the matter?" smiling and trying not to laugh at his randomness. He then screams, "Stop playing footsie with me." After a really awkward 5 seconds, he realizes it was my dog nudging him, wanting to get his attention. A few years ago, I was walking my dogs and they spotted a squirrel and yanked me off my feet. My glasses broke in the fall, I hit my face and scraped my hand quite badly. Cut to a few days later. God knows why, but the wounds have swollen, most of my face is covered in bruises and one eye is black. I went with my brother to the gun range. It was a previously planned trip, but I can only imagine what the owners thought, seeing a battered up woman come learn to shoot. When I was visiting my hometown, I drove past our old childhood home where I'd grown up. Decided to take some photos of the house for nostalgia's sake. There were a few little kids playing in the front. Perfect, the house is still filled with children's laughter and all that good stuff. Take out my camera, cue an angry bald man rushing out of the house screaming at me for taking photos of his kids bawling, me driving away in a hurry without stopping to explain. Me and my cousin were tasked with throwing away a shitty worn old carpet. Because of how dusty and dirty it was, we had to wrap it in black bin bags. Let's just say we had a long conversation with the Buckinghamshire County Police. When I was 21, I went on a trip to Kentucky Lake with some friends. A guy's weekend trip. It was a great first day. We hit the water, drank a ton, had a blast. None of us used sunscreen, which was dumb in retrospect. Well, one of the guys got so burnt that he couldn't even move. He had to basically sit in the shower, let the hot water pour over him for as long as it would last. While this was happening, a friend and I walked down to the marina bar to get hammered and eat. When we came back, we saw my sunburned buddy lying naked on his bed, face down, spread eagle, and our other friend, his brother, walking in with a bottle of lotion with a big grin on his face going, "You have no idea how great this is." We all stood there and looked at each other for a moment, and my friend on the bed goes, "You know what? At this point I wish I was about to get butt fricked. That would probably hurt less than how I feel right now." So, I was watching a film in our communal kitchen at uni. My flatmate came into the kitchen and I paused the film, in the middle of a scene with some guys dancing topless in it. I immediately blurted out, "It's not porn," at which my housemate gave me this look which roughly translated to, "I didn't think it was porn but now I do." Finally, I can tell my stupid story. I've suffered from left leg sciatica since I was about 14. Turns out I had something wrong with one of the facets in my lower left-hand spine, since corrected with surgery. In high school, I discovered the only way to heal a flare-up was to have someone legit dig into my left butt cheek. Instant pain relief as the muscle calmed down and the nerve relaxed. Once in 11th grade, I had my girlfriend over to my parents' house and we went downstairs to watch a movie. While we obviously messed around down there all the time, this was actually very innocent. I had a flare-up and she offered to massage my ass cheek to help with the pain. I laid across her lap face down while she went to town. Felt so good to not have my leg be on fire. Anyway, Dad walks downstairs and in the dark, it appears my girlfriend was fisting my asshole. He immediately screams, "Whoa, I'm sorry," and runs upstairs. I had to go and explain what was up. He still thinks she was fisting me. I'm almost 30. Sitting on the heater vent on the floor because it's so cold out. While eating peanut butter out of the jar. All while pants are so tight to sit, so they are unbuttoned and unzipped, to make sitting comfortable. Suddenly family comes home, and you are seen as pants half off, jar of peanut butter in hand, and your dog right beside you. Oh no. One day in college, I had a terrible headache. I had some pain reliever capsules that had probably expired. I took it, and it got stuck in my throat. I finally got it down and started walking to class. A few feet down the hallway, I sneezed and powder flew out of my nose. I ran into the trash room to puke. I came out and was greeted by a tour group. I went to the bathroom and had powder all over my nose, was sweaty, and had red eyes from coughing and throwing up. I made a late-night supermarket purchase of coconut oil, AA batteries, and condoms. The checker laughed and I realized that combo of items looked pretty kinky. In reality, I needed the batteries for an Xbox controller. My girlfriend needed the coconut oil for cooking. And you can guess what our roommate needed the rubbers for. Your girlfriend? One of my friends is a dermatologist and I asked him to take a look at a birthmark on my lower back. It was at a rainy barbecue and we went to the bathroom for better lighting. I pulled my summer dress up and bent a bit over the sink so I did not throw any shadows to the region around the birthmark. In this moment another friend opened the door. She made a weird noise and closed the door immediately. It took us a few seconds to understand why she reacted so weirdly. When you cook professionally you run into rampant cases of swamp ass and monkey butt. A well-known way to circumvent this is to throw some cornstarch on your bits and pieces. We kept a box of cornstarch in the office solely for this purpose. I was applying some cornstarch to my balls when a very attractive, very female manager walked into the office. It looked horrible from her perspective. My back was to the door, hand clearly down my pants, and circular movement. "What are you doing?" "Ooh, we have cameras in here." Me turning around and trying to explain. "I don't want to know." I found a goat skull on a university field trip in Spain and decided to take it home. At the airport, the X-ray scanner security were calling more security over and chatting away in Spanish. I mentioned to my lecturer that they might have seen my goat skull and they asked me to pull it out. Lecturer chats away with them and they all disperse giggling. They thought I was trying to export some endangered Spanish goat skull. My lecturer happily confirmed that he was a zoology-geology lecturer and it was most definitely a goat skull and not an endangered species. When we walked away my lecturer laughed how they let us through security with acid and pen knives but the skull was what set off the alarms. When I was a freshman in high school I had a gay friend. I'm female. I wasn't allowed to have boys in my room but for the upcoming talent show, Andy wanted to use one of my dresses so I took them upstairs to try them on. My dad walked in right as Andy had pulled his pants down and was standing in his underwear. My father was not thrilled and, more importantly, failed to take in that I had a dress in my hand, Andy had a dress in his hand, and there were more strewn about. There was definitely a fire that had to be put out that day. My dad helped me out by leasing a car for me. He wasn't techie, transferring money into his account wasn't an option, so I always paid him in cash for the car payment. We would meet up to have dinner in a restaurant and I would give him my car payment. Well, this one time, I got to the restaurant and had to go to the bathroom. After peeing, I went to wash my hands and decided to double check my money to make sure I had the right amount of cash. As I am counting 420s, a guy walks into the bathroom, looks at me, and runs out. I thought how embarrassing, walking into the women's restroom. Then, he proceeds to walk in again, passing me awkwardly. I realize I'm in the men's room, counting cash. I'm heading home one night, really tired. Police pulls me over and asks if I know why he stopped me. Oblivious I say no and he tells me I have a large streak of blood down my face. I then say it's okay officer, it's not my blood. Yeah. Don't say that to the police. He asks me to open the back of my car. My response? Ooh, I'm okay but don't freak out, I was tired, okay? Yup, in the back seat of my car was a few lumpy black bin bags. There was a bit more blood. I was almost in an awful lot of trouble until I showed him the box in the back seat that contained my Harris Hawk, which was enough to convince him I was a falconer. The bin bags contained a few months' supply of frozen food for my bird and the blood on my face was because my hawk liked to preen me after he'd finished eating. The officer took some photos with me and my hawk then let us go, but God, that almost went very wrong. Ooh, got a good one. I work in tech. My HR lady likes to wear skirts and is very easy on the eyes. She called me over to her office to help fix a desktop issue. I said, I'll get one of my tier 1 guys to come over. She said, Gizmo, can you just do this for me real quick? I said, you know what, why the hell not? She has her desktop on the ground right by her feet. It turns out that her Ethernet cord wasn't plugged into her PC. I should mention that it was spring day and she has crazy allergies. I tell her, I need to get underneath your desk to get to the back of your PC. She said no worries. I'll be right here. She doesn't get out of her chair but instead moves aside just enough for me to crawl in there. She has Visine in her hands and as I'm working through the rat's nest of cables, she's placing eye drops in her eyes and her head rolls back so the tears don't fall onto her skirt. She sort of makes an audible "aw yeah" as the Visine is being absorbed. In walks my boss just as she's saying "aw yeah" with her head rolled back in her chair and me standing back up after being, What seems like, between her legs. My boss says you two could have at least closed this door. I said, it's not what it looks like as he walks about closing the door. Ooh, I got a good one. So my wife is kinda ridiculous and adorable and I love her very much for it. One day she made me lunch for work and included a note written onto a paper towel that says I love you me and Sharpay. So I sit down in the break room at my work and begin eating my lunch. On the table, there happened to be another black Sharpie and I put it, and a roll of paper towels, together away from my little part of the table. I set up, eat my lunch, and set my wife's paper towel note down next to, I'm sure you can guess, the paper towels and the Sharpay. As I'm eating, a coworker, as well as my boss, walk in. I chat with the coworker and he looks at my wife's note, the paper towels, and the Sharpay. He then proceeds to ask, did you write yourself a note? I looked at the note, the Sharpie, and the paper towels and realize how it must appear. As I have a mouth full of food I have to frantically explain that no, I'm not in fact in need of serious emotional help. Luckily they both laughed and believed me. My stepbrother's girlfriend came over to my house and my brother had gone to go buy something for her so it was only me and his GF. I started making tea for her since I felt bad letting her stand there, and while I was pouring in the water she stood next to me and watched me make the tea. Me being me, I didn't realize that she was there and when I turned around to put the kettle back I jumped and spilt some of the water on her shirt. So, I bent down and started trying to clean it off her top before it started to burn and she kept smacking my hand telling me that it's fine. And then the expected happened, my brother came back and from the angle, he was stood at the position we were in looked very questionable. We all just kinda stared at each other for a while. Now he always makes jokes that I'm trying to steal his girlfriend. He comes back and says what are you doing stepbruh?